Hello, my name is Bill Iyall. I served as chairman of the Cowlitz Indian Tribe from 2008 to 2020. But before that, I was the vice chairman of the tribe. And in 2002, I was on the Lewis and Clark Commission, and I was honored to be invited to the White House to kick off the celebration of the Lewis and Clark expedition. I was allowed to bring one individual to that White House briefing, and I decided the best person I could invite was my chairman, John Barnett. So John came with me, and I was vice chairman at that time. And we flew into Washington, D.C., and I remember sitting next to John, and out the window is the Washington Monument, and it's just this magical just column right outside the window. And John looked over to me, and at that point it was just totally a whole revelation, but he said he wanted me to succeed him as chairman at that point in time. We were on our way to a very important session with President Bush, and he came in and spoke to us. And it was shortly after that, in 2004, that I went to DC with John, and then Dave too, Dave Barnett, and we had a really good legal team, and they came up with an idea to present what's called the Restored Lands opinion, and that would require the National Indian Gaming Commission to issue an opinion that our reservation that we had picked would qualify under the federal rules as restored lands for our tribe. The fact that we had found the original notes from the Treaty Council that placed us there were substantial. And so I presented that. John asked me to present that to the National Indian Gaming Commission. Their lead attorney was a woman named Penny Coleman, and I remember Penny very well, and she remembers me to this day. I see her in DC when I'm there. It's been several years though, but they gave us a favorable opinion. That was the foundation for ultimately the record of decision that we would receive. But before we could get our record of decision, in 2008, John Barnett passed away, and I became the chairman. That was a difficult time. I was still working full-time for the city of Tacoma, so I was about 2 years away from full retirement there. So 2 years, I had 2 full-time jobs, essentially, is what it amounted to. And immediately, though, I was in DC in January, when January 21st is when the new administration comes forward. President Barack Obama had just been elected, and coming into an office like that, there was Interior staff and BIA staff, but there was no leadership. They appoint new leadership there, so we had no assistant director for the BIA. But at that same time, there was a decision that was made by the Supreme Court that presented a barrier for our decision. It would not allow the BIA to take land into trust for a tribe that was not under federal jurisdiction. And that's what happened to the Narragansett tribe. They were kind of a test case for some of the anti-gaming and anti-tribe lawsuits. They lost. They lost big, but Indian country lost big. And we were years in the making of trying to fix that. Everyone was trying to get Congress to fix that, but in the beginning of that, the BIA came forward with their lead attorney. Let's see, well, I can't remember her name right now, but she stood up there and said, we have to consult with all the tribes on this matter to find a solution. And at that point in time, there was a lot of major tribes that did not want to see any competition, including the Grand Lawn tribe. And so consultation meant that they would hear from all of the opposition, if you will, and those that needed support. And I became a party of 26 affiliated tribes that also wanted to get land into trust. But the Cowlitz tribe, we were number one in the queue. So everybody's looking at me and saying, you know, we got to get this done. So I spoke to Pilar Thomas was her name, the lead attorney there. And I said, and this was an open session with all the other leadership around the room and our attorneys sitting off to the side. I said, well, Pilar, you really don't need to consult. You just need to follow the law and make a determination. Well, that proved to be a challenge. The BIA was kind of dumbfounded by the Supreme Court's decision, and they put a stay, is what they call it, on proceedings. They put a stay on all of the consideration for our review and any other review, and that was a major obstacle. A stay is several different versions. The court can order it, or you can do what's called a self-stay. Well, in this case, it was a self-stay. And a self-stay was put in place in case there was any adverse decision about in any forum for litigation against our decision. And it happened to be that there was litigation at that point in time against our decision. And so we were in a pickle, if you will. It was kind of a conundrum, or it was just a difficult time. And the Carcieri decision was a very bad decision, and Clarence Thomas wrote the decision. But in the end, that self-stay lasted, I think it was about 3 years. And in that time, we had this great partnership with many other tribes across the country, Mashpee and Tohono O'odham. We were kind of the three in front of all of this. Mashpee, they just got theirs recently. Tohono O'odham got theirs a little before us. But Tohono O'odham, the three of us wanted to bring a resolution to the body of the National Indian Congress, National Congress of American Indians, to end the self-stay process, to bring forward a decision. I volunteered to do that. Tohono O'odham could not be involved because they were being opposed by the Gila River tribe, and the Gila River tribe objected to their involvement. Fortunately, no one objected to our involvement, and I carried that resolution to the floor of the National Congress of American Indians. I think it was 2011, and that was voted on at the floor, and I couldn't believe the overwhelming support. The vote is weighted by tribal populations. I recall the vote was 723 in support and about 21 in opposition. So it was that kind of support that we had to move forward. The BIA caught wind of that. They came forward and said, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to move these now. And I worked with the then Solicitor of Interior on a couple issues, Hillary Tompkins. She came forward after a second decision came out where a neighbor was suing the Menominee tribe, I believe in Michigan, for damages, if you will, because of the casino they had. And this lawsuit got hung up many years, and they lost standing. But then they sued all the way to the Supreme Court and won, and Patchak is their name. So there was the Patchak decision that gave them standing long after the statute of limitations. So I caught Hillary as she stepped off the stage, and I said, Hillary, now that there's no statute of limitations, you don't need to do a stay. You don't need to do a self-stay, because there'll always be a lawsuit coming forward. That was my premise to her, and lo and behold, she went to work with all of the BIA staff attorneys, including Brian Newland, who's now the Assistant Secretary of the BIA. I got to know Brian very well, and I still have his cell phone number. But we worked, all of us worked together, and ultimately they came up with a fix for Carcieri. They don't call it the Cowlitz fix, but that's what it is. They call it the M opinion, and you can see that come forward in the Mashpee decision as well. And so we had a solution. We won our case. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. That happened when the Trump administration came into office. I met the new Secretary of Interior at the stage, and I told him our success story. But the most important thing is the BIA and the DOJ had not registered a statement with the Supreme Court to continue support for our decision. They did. Shortly after that, they did. They came forward, and it's called a denial of cert. And so the Supreme Court did not accept the appeals. What an amazing time. And that was the fix for the Carcieri decision. And I gotta say, I think I had a major hand in that. You know, when I was at the NCAI conference, it was in Rapid City, South Dakota, sorry. And anyway, I was bringing this resolution forward, and we were in committee, and damn Ron Allen on the other side of the room says, let's just make it for non-gaming land determinations. And he says, I'll make that a friendly amendment. And I look back at Ron, no, you know, this is my resolution, you're not getting a friendly amendment. And so nobody seconded it, and so that died. So we got the resolution that covered gaming determinations. And my goodness, you know, what would happen if they would have just made that decision go the other way, and they would have started processing non-gaming requests? We would still be in the queue. So anyway, that's just a little bit of the flavor of that time. It was great working with all of the leadership in DC, and it is about relationships. Larry Echohawk was the first assistant secretary that came in under the Obama administration. He was at one time he was the Attorney General in Idaho. And my cousin Jeannie, who was my Uncle Jack's number 2 daughter, she was a Coeur d'Alene tribe member, but she was also in the legislature in Idaho, one of the first Native women in Idaho. And she worked with Larry Echohawk, and he knew her very well. So when I met Larry, we were instantly connected at that family level. It was just a remarkable time. Larry's still a friend. His daughter lives in Camas. We had dinner at the casino about 4 years ago, and he was astounded and amazed at our accomplishments. And I said, well, Larry, this is your doing. So it was a great time. And so that's a little bit of the story. A lot more to tell, but I appreciate your time and listening in. Thank you.